In a remote village, nestled among the misty mountains of Japan, there lived a young man named Kenji. He was ambitious, clever, and full of dreams. From childhood, he had wanted to build something great, not for fame, but for purpose. His dream was to open a small school where children of poor families could learn to read and write, free of charge. Kenji worked tirelessly. He saved every coin he earned from his work in the rice fields. He studied by candlelight. He drew plans on scraps of paper, sketching the building, the desks, the garden where the children would play. His heart burned with the vision. But Kenji had one weakness. He could not keep his mouth shut. Every evening, he would sit with friends at the village tea house and describe his plans in lavish detail. "I will build the school on that hill," he would say. "I have already spoken to the carpenter. I will plant cherry trees along the path. The children will come from every corner of the valley." His friends nodded politely. Some were impressed, others were indifferent, and a very few, began to feel a quiet resentment. One such man was Taro, a local merchant who had always considered himself the richest and most influential person in the village. He did not like competition, even from a young man with a noble cause. When Kenji spoke of his school, Taro would smile and say, "What a wonderful idea," but inside, he was scheming. Days turned into weeks. Kenji continued to share his plans with anyone who would listen. He told the carpenter how many windows he needed. He told the woodcutter how many beams. He told the landlord which plot of land he intended to buy. He told everyone everything. Then, one morning, Kenji woke to find a notice pinned to his door. It was from the village council. The land he had planned to buy had been purchased by someone else for a higher price. When Kenji confronted the landlord, the man shrugged and said, "Taro offered me twice what you promised. Business is business." Kenji was stunned. He went to the carpenter. "I cannot build without the land," he said, "but I will find another plot." The carpenter looked at him coldly. "I have taken on other work," he said. "I cannot help you now." Kenji went to the woodcutter. He got the same answer. He went to the wealthy families who had promised to sponsor his school. They had all changed their minds. "We decided to support Taro's new project instead," they said. "A cloth merchant's warehouse, much more practical." Kenji returned home, defeated. He sat in his empty room, staring at his plans, his dreams, his years of preparation, all gone. He had saved money, but the money was useless. He had made promises, but the promises were broken. He had done everything right, except one thing. He had shared his plans too freely. That night, an old monk who had been passing through the village came to Kenji's door. The monk, a weathered man with kind eyes, saw the young man weeping over his papers. "You seem troubled," said the monk. Kenji poured out his heart. He told the monk everything: his dream, his hard work, his betrayal, his ruin. The monk listened in silence. When Kenji finished, the monk sat down on the floor and said, "Let me tell you a story. In a certain forest, a sparrow found a single grain of rice. It was not much, just one grain. But the sparrow knew that if it planted it, a stalk would grow, and from that stalk, many grains would come. The sparrow flew to the squirrel and said, 'I have found a grain of rice. I will plant it and have 100 grains.' The squirrel said nothing, but he remembered. The sparrow flew to the rabbit and said, 'I will plant this grain and become the richest sparrow in the forest.' The rabbit said nothing, but he remembered. The sparrow flew to the fox and said, 'Watch me. I will grow a field of rice, and I will feed all the birds. I will be famous.' The fox smiled and said, 'What a wonderful dream.' That night, while the sparrow slept, the fox dug up the grain and ate it. The squirrel told no one. The rabbit told no one. The sparrow woke up to an empty hole and wept. He had told everyone his plan, but he had not guarded his treasure. The fox, meanwhile, did not plant the grain. He ate it and went hungry the next day. But the sparrow learned a lesson he never forgot, that a seed shared is a seed stolen, and a plan spoken is a plan lost. The monk paused and looked at Kenji. Your mistake was not in dreaming. Your mistake was in telling. A plan is like a seed. It needs time, darkness, and secrecy to root itself in the earth. When you speak it too soon, you give the foxes of the world time to dig it up. The envious will block your path. The indifferent will forget your words. The scheming will steal your ground. Next time, Kenji, speak only to the earth. Let your actions be your voice. When the tree is fully grown and bearing fruit, then let the world see it. But while it is still a seed, keep it hidden. For a vision that is exposed before it is ready is a vision that may never be born. Kenji listened carefully. He wiped his tears and asked, "Then what do I do now?" The monk smiled. "Start again, this time silently. Tell no one. Trust no one with your plan, only with your work. Let them see the school only when the roof is on, the windows are in place, and the children are sitting at their desks. Then they will ask, 'How did you do this?' And you will answer, 'I did it quietly.'" Kenji bowed deeply and thanked the monk. The next day, he left the village. He traveled to a distant town where no one knew him. There, he found a new piece of land. He spoke to no one about his dream. He worked as a laborer, saved every coin, and bought the land himself. Then, in complete silence, he built his school. He worked at night. He hired craftsmen from other villages, swearing them to secrecy. He planted cherry trees along the path in the dead of night. When a neighbor asked what he was doing, he said only, "I am fixing my roof." 3 years later, Kenji opened the doors of his school. The village children came. They learned to read. They learned to write. And they learned from Kenji a lesson no book could teach, that great things are built not with loud words, but with quiet hands. When the old monk heard of Kenji's success, he smiled and said, "Now you understand, Kenji. The world is full of listeners and doers. The listeners will always steal your ideas if you speak them. The doers will always doubt your intentions if you declare them. But those who act in silence, they are the ones who will build the world." From that day, Kenji became a quiet man. He never again spoke of his plans until they were done, and in time, he became one of the wisest teachers in all of Japan.